Welcome to Stories of Hope. Each week I bring you stories that will inspire you, educate you, and give you hope. I want to thank my studio sponsor, the Motivated Mind Group, your global creative agency based right here in downtown Chandler. Today my guest is Daniel Fulton, who is a TBI survivor, and his mom, Kathy Fulton, who is his caregiver. Please help me welcome my guests today, Kathy and Daniel. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a last minute thing. I apologize, but I'm glad you could come and sit down with me and share your story about TBI. And if you don't know what TBI is, it's traumatic brain injury, right? And that could be anything. So today we're actually going to learn of Daniel and his journey on how this came about, I guess I would ask. I understand with my conversation with Mom the other day, you're very active.
I am.
And you made a promise to a buddy in high school?
I did real well. It was either in high school or right after.
Okay, and that was to
live life to the fullest and never have any
regrets?
Regrets or any wishes.
Oh yeah. How many times do you hear, "Oh, I'm gonna live life to the fullest"? Well, I think I met somebody that does it. I do it too, but you're on a whole different scale of living life to the fullest. So I want to say, and that is what you did. You're living your life to the fullest. But something changed, and you're still living your life to the fullest, but just in a different capability.
Exactly.
So tell me, how does snowboarding come into play?
Well, snowboarding has always been a passion. I grew up skateboarding, and snowboarding seemed like a natural transition.
Okay. You have to have a lot of balance. No?
It's learned.
So you went on a snowboarding trip? I moved from Arizona to Colorado to snowboard. What part of Colorado?
Southwestern, Telluride.
Oh, beautiful place.
It is.
Been there.
I love it.
So tell me, how did this TBI become TBI, I guess is what I'm not sure how to ask the question without.
Well, in 2009, it was the first powder day of the season. Mm-hmm. It was December 9th, and I was told by a coworker that I watched a storm form over Fiji and travel all the way across the Pacific Ocean, and said it's gonna hit in 4 days. I promise we're gonna get hit. And then I ended up switching shifts with my buddy Craig, who I was supposed to who I worked with, that was supposed to have the morning off, and I was supposed to open the shop. I ended up trading shifts with him so I could wake up and be one of the first chairs up the hill.
And we know what that exciting feeling is, especially fresh powder.
Exactly.
I know I ski, and as we know, sometimes things happen.
Things do.
And so tell us what happened.
I was one of the first few chairs up the mountain. You have to, until ready, you take chair, I believe it's 8 up to the end. You have to get off the chair and then go over to lift 9 and up, and there's a place in 9 all the people like to go, all the locals. It's called the Captain Jack Trees now. It used to be called the Locals Glades when I lived there. Okay. And so I made my way over to Locals Glades, and I woke up in Arizona.
So you don't remember what happened?
I lost about 6 months before my accident and then 6 months after.
So this is probably where I'm going to ask Mom to fill in that space of blank.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
It does.
So Mom, Kathy, also caregiver, what happened that day?
He hit a tree.
Oh.
He somewhere I've heard different stories, but basically he hit a tree. And fortunately, one of the doctors from the clinic was on the mountain and got to him. One story we heard that people were wondering why there was a yellow and red flag wrapped around the tree. Well, that was Daniel. And they took him down to the clinic. They stabilized him. I got the phone call about 10 in the morning. Mm-hmm. I was at work, and they air vacuumed him. And we got a friend to fly us up to Grand Junction. Mm-hmm. And it would have been like an 18, 20-hour drive because of the blizzard.
Blizzard.
Thank you that they were having.
Okay.
And got there, and we were told that he had a 10% chance of surviving the night, and then if he survived the night, a 10% chance of coming out of his coma. Mm-hmm. I was asked if I wanted to donate his organs, and obviously he came out of the coma. Mm-hmm. I was also told that he would be lucky to be able to feed himself someday, and here he is.
Not bad. Could have been worse. No.
It could have been a lot worse.
So I'm sure as anyone is paying attention to this, there's always that one question. It doesn't matter if you're doing a sport or riding a bicycle or a motorcycle. Was he wearing a helmet?
Of course, yes, he was wearing a helmet. He cracked his helmet all the way through. He had what they call shearing of the brain. Mm-hmm. So his brain bounced back and forth from the front to the back, and his two hemispheres of his brain shifted. Mm-hmm.
Here's a tongue twister. It's called diffuse axonal brain shearing.
Say that again, because you're right, it's a tongue twister.
Diffuse axonal brain shearing.
Okay. So how does that, when you're talking about the different hemispheres, what part has been altered? Because you're able to walk, you came in with a walker, and your speech is slurred, but you're very point on with everything. So what happens in a TBI? I know that different injuries are different.
Every brain injury is different. Mm-hmm. He pretty much had every part of each of the sections of his brain damaged.
Okay.
His motor skills his cerebellum was damaged. That's where the message sending from left brain, right brain.
Okay.
Were you going to say
Go ahead.
something?
Sure, and having my injury focused around my brainstem and cerebellum, the cerebellum, it kind of is the thing that is responsible for the coordination of like all your movements. So that's why I talk the way I do. That's the why I don't have a fluid step. Is because everything is controlled by the cerebellum.
Okay. Okay.
He has double vision.
What about your memory? Do you have anything to remember previous to that of the accident versus?
I've been told and I've read that it's very rare people remember the actual injury because it's such a traumatic experience.
The body's protecting itself, so it shuts it down.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that's why I lost about 6 months before my accident and 6 months after.
So how long was he in the hospital?
3 months.
Okay.
Total. A month and a half he was in a coma.
Okay.
And then we spent time in St. Joe's. We got home to St. Joe's, and he was in acute care there, and then inpatient rehab there.
So I'm going to assume, as I have learned from anyone that has had an injury and has been in a coma or has not been able to be out of a hospital bed for a number of days and time, that you have to learn how to walk and talk and eat and function all over again. Is that correct?
Yes.
You had to learn to swallow.
The basic things that we take for granted, right? And speaking.
Yeah.
Walking. I mean, I tell people all the time, I have the privilege of sitting here and talking to a lot of different walks of life, and the one thing that I always come back with is we're all one tragedy and trauma away from change. Not one person's exempt from it at all. It's what we do moving forward like you have done. And I understand you're still very active.
I tried to be.
You try to be.
I tried to be.
He still snowboards.
Oh my goodness.
We've done adaptive sports in Telluride. And the first time on the mountain, it took 4 people to get him out to his board. He was still in a very cumbersome walker.
Yeah, I believe it was
And a wheelchair, yes.
Okay, so I'm having this visual because my son snowboards, I ski, so they're totally 2 different things, right? But we're still doing the same sport. How are you able to hold your balance going down at the speeds that you would?
The momentum is the biggest thing of it, and having old memory was something I love because I used to be such a I used to be a good snowboarder.
Oh, you can claim it. Go ahead.
And they had this thing at Telluride Adaptive Sports called the Rider Bar.
Okay.
Basically, it's like a walker, but for your snowboard. Underneath their bindings, which are the things that strap your feet to the snowboard.
Okay.
They basically have that two base with the bar that comes up, and then a bar that goes across for you to have something to hold on to.
Okay.
And it has a handle coming out the end. So a person can help you initiate your hillside and your two-side turns.
So are you by yourself, or there's actually, okay, you have assistance?
There's a person with you.
Oh, okay.
And there's 3 other spotters with him. So there's 4 adaptive people with Daniel.
Oh, wow.
And now he's down to needing just 1 person. And he doesn't get out of his bindings. He just needs help getting on and off the lift. Pretty much everything else he can do for himself.
Basically push myself through line because, again, I use the momentum to push myself up and off the chairlift.
You know what, Daniel, a lot of people, when they have actually had something happen to them, they won't do that again. That is not what you did.
Well, it's a good thing I don't remember my accident.
But some people will stick it in their mind saying, this, and you're right, this has happened, I'm not going to do it again because something might happen again. That's the thought I'm saying. And that's not what you have taken. You're like, no, you're like my son, you're like, nah,
No.
I'm going to keep enjoying life. And the promise you made with your friend, living life to the fullest with no regrets.
Exactly.
So you're his caregiver. Tell us what that entails.
Well, in the beginning, it was 24/7. Yeah, I didn't. I pretty much lived at the hospital. I'd go home when they made me go home, and sometimes I slept there. I would sneak and put my head at his foot of his bed, and my feet were up by his head, and get underneath the covers. That they didn't know I was there because I wasn't allowed to be.
Whoever sees this is now going to be doing bed checks.
But, and then brought him home. We put bed rails on his bed, like for a child not to fall out, so he wouldn't fall out of the bed. And he couldn't do transfers by himself, from a chair to a bed or a recliner or his walker, or wheelchair at the time. He needed assistance with everything. We had to help, feed him, dress him, bathing, bathroom duties in the beginning, and gradually he was able to learn that stuff with assistance, and he And he still works so hard at getting better.
I was going to say, I don't know. This is the first I've met of you both. And just the way that you present yourself and the energy you give and the things that you've already said, you seem like you're a, I'm going to do this no matter what kind of attitude.
That's the only way it can be.
If everyone thought that way, we would have a lot more. But because we don't, that's totally okay. I admire you for having that, we'll call it courage. Some people would say courage, or you're so strong. You just had this thought of, no, this is not where I want to be. I want to keep living life the best that I can, as any of us would say. But you seemed a lot more determined that you were, especially when you're talking about going back out on the snow.
All right.
Good for you.
Thank you.
That's brave.
I
That's
miss
totally
transportation pretty much the time. He takes
Okay.
what they call dial-a-ride or a paratransit arrangements to get to places. We have to, help him with the walker. We added a room addition onto our house. It's kind of like a mother-in-law suite. So he's, in the house with us. We tried him living independently for a short while, but the roommate situation didn't work out. I was hoping he would make friends, but it wasn't. It was so stressful on me.
Oh. Well, one, your mom, for sure. We can relate. I think the other part is, and I think it's great that you were trying to have him be able to live on his own, and he wanted to. And this goes with anything in life and anybody is, there are people that don't know how to relate to someone's different abilities or something that's happened to someone, like a loved one, or you being a physical thing that they don't understand how to engage or be there for you. And that's not right or wrong. That's just how we're created as human beings. And so I think it's a great thing that you actually tried that. But again, we all gravitate to something that we can understand or feel comfortable with. And for that I say I'm sorry, but in the meantime you get to hang out with mom and dad like you know.
That's fun.
Unfortunately,
Like all kids want to, right? No.
I get dinner almost every night, which is good.
Look at that, you always have food and you don't have to worry about coming over to do the laundry. So I don't know if this is an appropriate question or even a question that has an answer. Have you had frustrations what was your most frustrated moments in the very beginning when you had to start all over to be where you are today?
I think communication's the most frustrating thing. Having people just nod their head yes, people understand what I'm saying, but really, you can tell in the eyes, they really have no clue what I'm what I just said, and knowing that they have no clue, that it just flies over the head.
So when you talk about communication, because communication can be broken down in different ways, are you talking about because your speech is different that they have to actually, and I say this carefully because we're all guilty of it, I'm guilty of it the most, is we talk really fast or we come across someone who has a language barrier, and so we're not sure to slow down and actually listen to what's being said. Is that the communication you're talking about?
It's that people get embarrassed by having you maybe repeat yourself or asking you to repeat because they don't know what you just said. But that's the most frustrating thing, is knowing somebody doesn't understand you, and then ending their conversation by not nodding their head and basically ignoring you. Okay. Or not, sometimes you end your conversation with a question, and the answer never comes.
And they don't give him, they assume he's not real intelligent because of the way he speaks. No one has ever said that,
right,
but
right. that goes with
Yeah.
communication and all
Yeah.
language barriers. I'll have to agree with you. Just like for me, if someone was speaking a different language, I'm like, I'll do the nodding of the head
Yeah.
too, or I'll say, can you repeat yourself? Because I'm sorry I didn't understand. And I want them frustrated. I want to actually know what they said. So I get that part. You talked about the communication part. What about when you actually had to go through all of the learning how to do everything all over again? Did you get frustrated? Because you're in your own mind and you're having to push the exterior of everything.
To a certain degree, like really, like you remember being able to do this stuff. So really, I for instance, I use a walker, and I know I can't do things like I'm not gonna be able to get up and run a marathon.
Okay.
Heck, I can't even run around the block.
You can't even run around the block. It's okay, I don't either. In all of this, what was your most frustrating part? Because I know when you talked about learning that he may not survive, then you brought him home and you had to go through all the steps to where he is today. What was your most frustration?
Probably it was with insurance and getting him the therapy and that he needed. He was on his own insurance, and we would be at one place for therapy and they'd quit that location and we'd have to find another location. So it was a lot of work, keeping him in therapy and wondering if we were going to have the finances to continue. Now that it's awesome, but that was very, very difficult. People giving advice sometimes very frustrating, not because they haven't lived the situation.
Everybody thinks that they have the answer.
I can understand that. So moving forward, do you still go to therapy?
I do to a certain extent. I go to physical therapy. I think I'm gonna start up occupational therapy.
Occupational therapy?
Occupational.
Okay.
Which is basically I don't know how to explain it, but basically occupational kind of encompasses everything. You have some occupational therapists are very physical, very physically oriented, and then, for instance, I saw an occupational therapist in my return to work program.
I was going to ask next before I ask my final question, return to work. So you're not currently working?
I am.
Oh, you are? What are you doing?
I work for a benevolent employee who was he's a good friend, but he is a good friend with my dad.
Okay.
He owned an Allstate insurance office,
Oh, insurance, okay.
and he since sold the office, or his book of business, and basically he sold my position with the company.
Okay, so
He scans. He does scanning for them, is what
Okay.
he does.
yeah, but it's still, you're doing something that I'm sure makes you feel independent,
Exactly.
and you can still do something that makes you feel like you're a part of society, right?
Yeah.
Doing something. That's awesome. Thank you. That's very inspiring.
You're welcome.
Is there anything I did not ask that you want to share before I ask my final question?
Everyone should wear a helmet in any activities that they do. I'm a big advocate on the helmet.
Understood. We had our conversation prior to this on mine. Yeah, totally understand. Is there anything I didn't ask that you want to share?
Really, a person with their brain injury is is capable of doing anything a able-bodied person would be able to do. Maybe not to the same extent, and might be a little. They might have a little bit more difficulty, but you can pretty much do whatever you want if you put your mind to it.
Ooh, that was powerful, because I have met many people, and the word disability has been told it's a different ability. And you yourself just said that even though you have a different ability, you are still capable of doing something that you want to do, your dreams. Follow them, get outside of that comfort and dream and do.
Get back on your snowboard.
Get back on your snowboard. I love that. So my final question is this, me with all the questions. If I only had one question to ask an individual to get an idea of who they are or what they're about, it would be this question. And I'm going to ask Mom first.
Okay.
And the question is, what message would you like to leave everyone based on your journey of life?
Oh my. Just live, just be grateful that you wake up in the morning and just appreciate everything that you've got around you. I love morning times, and I'm just so grateful that I still have Daniel.
Mm-hmm. I like that, thank you. Same question for you.
I'm ready just live life to the fullest, never hold back.
And I do, and my son says, Mom, not so much. So thank you. I say this all the time, and I just had this conversation because something I learned this afternoon prior to you coming in here. And everyone is one tragedy or trauma away from change.
It's true.
And this is very true, right? There are people who didn't survive an accident that was the same as yours, but you did, and you get to live it a different way. And this is your new norm for both of you. Everyone that has been a part of your life, it's not just you, it's everyone is affected by it. And so I do understand, live life to the fullest. And the other part is, and I said this earlier today, is we always say tomorrow, right? See you tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll wait till tomorrow. But tomorrow really doesn't exist because someone didn't wake up today and there was no tomorrow. So it's, what are you doing today?
What are you doing now?
What are you doing now? Being in the present. Yes, thank you. Thank you both for being my guests today.
You're welcome. Thank you
for asking us.
Thank you for your courage.
You're welcome.
Your strength. I don't like to use that word too often because it could be taken in a different view, but thank you for being who you are because you're making a difference.
Thanks.
And so is Mom.
It feels good having you see that.
It's true.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you to my studio sponsor, the Motivated Mind Group, your global creative agency based right here in downtown Chandler. If you have a story you want to share, know someone who has a story that can help someone else on their journey and give them hope, please email me to the address of stories@christinehotchkiss.com. And if you'd like to be a sponsor, you may also email me to the address of stories@christinehotchkiss.com. Until next time, everyone, I wish you well, and you take care.